Enerji Forumu'nun Not Conflict But Resolution adlı oturumunda konuşmacılarımız konuyla ilgili açıklamalarını yapacak. Bir özel davetlimiz de var bu oturum için. 6 Şubat'ta yaşadığımız deprem dolayısıyla hem Türkiye hem de Kuzey Kıbrıs Türk Cumhuriyeti açısından acılarla ne yazık ki belli bir süreci geçirmek üzereyiz, geçiriyoruz. O konuda da uzman bir panelistimiz de var. Ona en son bu konuyla ilgili söz vereceğim ama öncesinde Doğu Akdeniz'deki enerji çatışmaları, çakışmaları her ne dersek ismine ile ilgili olarak uzmanlarımız konuşma yapacak. Ben hem seyircilerimize, bizi YouTube kanalımızdan seyreden seyircilerimize hem de bu salonda bulunan seyircilerimize bundan fayda etmelerini rica ediyorum. Çünkü gerçekten uzmanlar konusunda uzman kişiler bu konuda çok ciddi açıklamalar yapacak. Şöyle yapacağız, 15'er dakikayı geçmeyecek şekilde eğer süremiz de yeterse sonra tekrar bir soru cevap yaparız ama ilk önce sizden ricam 15 dakikayı geçmeyecek şekilde, çünkü programda biraz sarktı, konuşmalarınızı yapmanızı rica edeceğim. Önce bu oturumun başlangıç konuşmasını Sayın Doktor Ergün Olgun hocamız yapacak. Kendisi zaten hepiniz tanıyorsunuz, baş müzakerecimiz. Sayın hocam buyurun lütfen. Siz bilirsiniz hocam, yani Türkçe de yapabilirsiniz, İngilizce de yapabilirsiniz. Size bağlı, İngilizce yapabilirsiniz.
Well, thank you very much, and I thank the organizers of this important conference, particularly ASPU and also TEPSPAM. Thank you for organizing this important conference at this very opportune time. I think we have had excellent introductory remarks by the protocol people. And I think one of the highlights that was touched upon was the strategic significance of the island of Cyprus at the gateway of the Suez Canal and its significance regarding energy security and international trade. I think those were very important elements. And the fact that the island of Cyprus has been is at the crossroads of the East and the West, the North and the South. And because of its strategic significance has always been an area where regional and international powers have tried to establish dominance over the island. And this is unfortunately the fate of the island of Cyprus, which needs this change. I think it is time, with the global challenges we are facing, that we move away from competition in the Eastern Mediterranean and work towards a resolution as the topic of this conference, which is conflict, not conflict, but resolution. So I think it's very important that, particularly in this area, we grasp the significance of moving away from conflict in this particular region, where we have if you like, the impact of the clash of civilizations for centuries on the island. We've had crusaders on the island. We've had imperial powers on the island. And it is about time with, as I said, global challenges they are facing, not only in terms of the environment, but also in terms of transition from fossil fuels to green energy. I mean, there's a global challenge that we have to sort of instantly move towards, but also human rights, global standards, quality of life standards for people throughout the world, democratic values. These are all global challenges to which we have to adhere. And therefore, the challenge is not only for one nation or for one country, it's a global challenge. So I'd like to first, my topic is the window of opportunity to exploit Eastern Mediterranean hydrocarbon resources is about to close. That's the topic that I have. After touching upon the region in general, I'd like to give you a little bit of an idea about the background of the conflict in Cyprus, so that you're all aware as to what the nature and what the root cause of the Cyprus conflict is, and why we are facing a problem in the island of Cyprus, which extends into the Eastern Mediterranean and affects cooperation in the Eastern Mediterranean. The island of Cyprus got its independence in 1960 from the British Empire in the form of a partnership republic. It was co-founded by the Turkish Cypriot people and the Greek Cypriot people. As I said, as a partnership republic. It wasn't a unitary state, it was a partnership state. I'll wait a few minutes for the students to sit down. Do we have any more people coming in? Yeah. We have more people coming in, okay. Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to give you some kind of a background about the nature of the Cyprus problem, which affects the Eastern Mediterranean stability and cooperation, and it extends into the hydrocarbons area as well, and the exploitation of the hydrocarbon resources of the Eastern Mediterranean. So you have to have an idea as to why there is a conflict on the island, the root cause of the Cyprus conflict. As I said earlier, the Republic of Cyprus was a partnership republic established in 1960 through independence from Great Britain. The Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots were the co-founders. And they had equal rights. Unfortunately, Greek Cypriots, under the obsession that they believe that the island of Cyprus is totally Greek, fought against the Turkish Cypriots in 1963 and usurped the Republic of Cyprus and turned it into a 100% Greek Cypriot republic. This is the root cause of the Cyprus issue. The 1960 agreements established a balance on the island between the Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, but also between Turkey and Greece, which are the two mother countries of the two peoples of the island. Turkish Cypriots see Turkey as their mother country. Greek Cypriots see Greece as their mother country. But unfortunately, the Greek Cypriots thought that the island of Cyprus should be 100% Greek. And that is why the balance established, the equilibrium established in 1960 was destroyed. And that inequilibrium still exists on the island, and it is the main reason why we have not been able to establish a settlement to re-establish the equilibrium by respecting the sovereign equality of the Turkish Cypriot people. So that is the root cause of the Cyprus problem. And unfortunately, because of the competition and because of the desire to dominate Turkish Cypriots, we have not had a settlement of the Cyprus issue. And that is why it is now extending into the Eastern Mediterranean. So this is just sort of a brief background. I will move to the subject of challenges and opportunities now. The challenge is that the Greek Cypriots want to pursue, to realize their objectives, a unilateral sort of policy. The unilateral policy is that they are the single sovereign of the island of Cyprus and of all the resources in the Eastern Mediterranean surrounding the island of Cyprus. So that is the challenge we are facing. The Turkish Cypriots say, and this is under international law, I mean, they have a legal right as equal owners of the island of Cyprus to the resources surrounding the island of Cyprus. Therefore, Turkish Cypriots say that these resources are owned by the two peoples of the island, and we have to have a cooperative mechanism to exploit these resources. So that is the Turkish Cypriot proposal. Now, in addition to these legal sort of bases and the political dispute, there is other elements in the region or globally which necessitate a sort of deviation or maybe stopping of the unilateral line pursued by the Greek Cypriots to move towards a cooperative process for several reasons. One is the fact that the window of opportunity to exploit fossil fuels is going to close by the year 2050. The European Union has set standards which start from 2030 to move away from fossil fuels in stages, and by 2050 to completely finish with fossil fuels because of the emissions, carbon emissions, and the fact that it's destroying the environment. That's why we have to move to fossil fuels. Now, this gap of opportunity, if a unilateral line like the Greek Cypriots and Greece is pursuing in the Mediterranean is continued, we will not be able to achieve and realize the exploitation of the resources of the Eastern Mediterranean. It is necessary. This is now becoming a need for sort of change. I mean, I'd like to read to you a recent report published by Greenpeace on this particular subject to give you an idea as to how, for example, this need is emerging and why we have to sort of move away from unilateral action. It says, I mean, this is only published this month. It says that the pipeline project, talking about the EastMed pipeline, by the way, the EastMed pipeline project is likely to add new heat to the unresolved conflict between the Republic of Cyprus and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus over control of the island of Cyprus. The project would exclusively benefit the Republic of Cyprus and cement its maritime claims. In recent years, gas exploitation has led to increased tension between both parties and an increased military presence in the maritime area, especially since the Republic of Cyprus and the TRNC granted permits for fossil fuel companies to drill on overlapping maritime zones. Building the pipeline to transport gas from the region would weaken the position of the TRNC, effectively limiting its maritime access and precluding any revenues from underwater exploitation. Any destabilization of the TRNC increases the danger of Turkey resorting to military means. So this could lead to tension in the area if unilateralism is pursued. It could lead to tension in the area. But also there is a statement by Victoria Nuland in 2022 that sees the Undersecretary of the US State Department, who said that the EastMed pipeline is too expensive, it's too long, it's not feasible, and it would be too late to get the returns of this resource for the needs of Europe because of the war in Ukraine. So therefore, the time element that is attached to the EastMed pipeline is closing, and that's my argument. Therefore, both in terms of need to exploit these resources for political reasons, to avoid conflict, and to facilitate cooperation in the Mediterranean in the island of Cyprus, it is essential that we move away from the unilateralism of the Greek Cypriots and Greece and adopt the Turkish Cypriot proposal, which was repeated, as the President has said, on the 1st of July 2022, that we move towards establishing a joint committee between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, which will co-manage and cooperate the resources in the Eastern Mediterranean. And in fact, this should not wait for a political settlement in the island of Cyprus. There are issues faced by the two sides which should not be the hostage of a political settlement. And this is one of them. I mean, I can give you an example between Israel and Lebanon. Israel and Lebanon, to determine their borders in the sea, their EEZs, they decided to put aside their political differences and agreed on a border agreement which facilitated the exploitation both by Lebanon and also by Israel. Therefore, we should not hold the Cyprus issue, the subject of hydrocarbons in the Eastern Mediterranean hostage to the political settlement, and move forward based on the proposal of the Turkish Cypriot side, which is cooperation, stability, and peace in the Eastern Mediterranean and Cyprus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olgun. In this session, the next speaker is Dr. Emete Gözügüzelli.
Thank you.
Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all being you here. Us today in the Social Sciences University of Ankara in Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. This is our glad to be meet all of yours. So I think it's not now. Okay, thank you. And special thanks to all students who came here and who watch us today via YouTube channel and the Energy TV channel. Thank you, all of yours, and special thanks to TESPAM, who organized this distinguished and valuable conference today. This is the really important topic. Why? Because we are in an era which everywhere you can see many conflicts in the world. So international system has changed and still continue changing. So in this structure, we should focus of course, the cooperation, peace, and harmony and stability in the region. So that's why this conference actually is very important, because the energy is in life. Energy affects all the sectors of the international community, such as, economy, diplomacy, security, and also it's some part of the national security, which mentioned before by the protocol. So today my subject is related to the or titled as New Energy Paths to Europe via Turkey and Turkey's key role on blue-green energy. So of course, if we look at our region, we have seen many conflicts, and we have also some frozen conflicts. So in this conjuncture, we should focus how we can solve our problems with our neighbors and the international actors. So firstly, I would like to start and show that how is the importance of the Cyprus issue in this case, on the energy issue, how we can focus and evaluate this. I wish to recall that the report of the United Nations Secretary General dated 29 June 2012, which states that the natural resources belong to the all Cypriots. This is the message that hydrocarbon resources around the island is not only belong to the Greek Cypriot side. This is very important message. And also the equal and the inherent rights of the Turkish Cypriots also are important in the region and cannot be ignored by unilaterally acts of the Greek Cypriot side. In addition, I would like to underline that Turkish Cypriot state has always maintained the view on cooperation based on the hydrocarbon resources around the island of Cyprus would serve the catalyst role around the island of Cyprus, and also it can bring a new synergy for the negotiated settlement in Cyprus issue. Whereas, you know that the Greek Cypriot side refused many proposals since 2011 and even in the 2012 and the latest proposals by the Turkish Cypriot state, which has offered an updated comprehensive proposals on the cooperation with the Greek Cypriot side on the hydrocarbon committee, again refused by the Greek Cypriot side. So the establishment of the joint committee to be composed of an equal number of members coming from two sides under the auspices of the, of course, United Nations and EU can take as an observer role in this proposals, and the Greek Cypriot side again the proposals. So why I explain this? Because the political action and political intention in any conflict is very important to understand who has goodwill, who has an supporting or try to enhancing or try to solve the problem between them. So this is the line with the realization of the proposals through diplomacy and cooperation between co-owners of the hydrocarbon resources around the island, which it was very important for de-escalation of the tensions around the region. So roughly 5 years have passed away from those areas, and behind this, Turkish side believed that the cooperation could be game changer for benefits of both sides on the two equal status of the island. So Turkish Cypriot state stands ready to make every possible effort to establish the cooperation and interdependency between the two sides. In addition, I should add that, or I should tell that, Turkey and Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus believes that building peace and stability in Eastern Mediterranean will only be possible with dialogue and cooperation. Of course, we have many maritime jurisdiction disputes around the region, and also we have the same disputes with the Greek Cypriot side or other parties, but it is time to focus how we can provide an energy as a catalyst role to solve this problem, because Turkey always stands and ready, as it did in the past, to give its full support to ensure a just, equitable, and peaceful solution, and despite of the all pending issues about the maritime delimitation. So, as you know that, Turkish Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Çavuşoğlu, in a short time ago, met his counterpart of Egypt. This is the milestone for both parties, open new dynamics and opportunities for cooperation in the region. And what Turkey's rapprochement policy are important in the region? If we can ask this question, of course, let's start to think the situation in the context of the international law. And if you look at the international law rules and norms, you can see that states bordering an enclosed or the semi-enclosed sea should cooperate with each other in the exercise of their rights. But despite of the efforts of the Turkish Cypriot state or Turkey, we have seen that Greek Cypriot side or Greece sometimes, as always actually, try to blockade or refuse the proposals or the goodwill of the Turkish side. So any forum without Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is ineffective. It is not logical. It is not rational, because in the Eastern Mediterranean, of course, Turkey has an important maritime jurisdictions area. Even the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus has it. So it is time, of course, to concentrate possible projects and roads in hydrocarbon discoveries. We have seen that many projects has been starting to discuss, such as İsmet project. It is founded as illogical and ineffective by the USA administration. And today we have seen that some pipeline projects from Egypt to Crete again started. But of course, it has been founded that these laying pipelines from Egypt to Crete was considered, but it is stated that this poses some technical problems. So in that case, the Turkey steps, Turkish policy on energy, Turkish foreign policy around the region, it is related to the normalization process and normalization of the diplomacy between its neighbors. So Turkey and Egypt could play an important role over the pipelines or over the LNG or other projects, including the participation, for example, the Israel and the other parties maybe agenda. And we have seen Israel and Turkey rapprochement also very important. It has come to fore, which president of the Israel visited to Turkey, and he met with President Erdogan, and they discussed also the energy issues. This is very important for the future developments in the region. And we have seen the normalization diplomacy again come to agenda by Turkey and Syria. With the Syria relations with Turkey is very important again in the case of the energy. So as finally, I would like to point some small things about the joint development program. Is it possible to enhance the joint development program in the Mediterranean on blue-green energy? Of course, today it is possible to act the principles of the cooperation between the states and overlapping areas in the world, and to make cooperation in the context of the joint development agreements, or to take some steps without a final agreement of the maritime jurisdiction, as we have seen that in the case of the Lebanon and Israel. Before solving their political problems, they agreed on the maritime jurisdictions fields. So this is very important and positive step for the synergy for future of the island. As conclusion, I would like to add some important things. Turkey is a big power, and Turkey has a strategic and geopolitical importance in the region. And also Turkey has a very Turkey has an important structure for the future. Turkey can enhance its cooperation with electricity, renewable energy, hydrogen energy, LNG, and in many other energy programs. Turkey can lead a pioneer in the region. So, of course, the possible projects on pipelines can be enhanced between the Turkey and Israel, and also Israel and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus to Turkey, and also Turkey and Egypt can develop another pipeline project, and Israel and Lebanon and Syria and Turkey also can enhance another project in the region, and we can increase it. So at the end, the idea using the hydrogen as a fuel is very old, and Turkey can create a another project for cooperation and for promotion the hydrogen energy in the region between the countries. So blue-green energy aim to obtain electricity from the water, from maritime zone by using hydrogen and oxygen and reserve this and flow of the energy via renewable energy sources. So in current situation, we have seen that Turkey has the potential to provide the investment companies and wind energy convenience and offshore installations in the legal and regulatory framework. Of course, this is a new idea for developing in the region, and it is an also maybe come to fore. And also we have, as finally, I would like to recall again the President Erdogan's message, which President Erdogan in 2020 called all the parties of the Eastern Mediterranean to come together and discuss their issue and to solve the problem. This is also important, and East Energy Cooperation Forum can be enhanced by the other parties because it is very important, I think. Thank you very much.
Please.
Okay. Thank you. As final, I would like to say that the regional cooperation or forum which offered by Turkey as proposals called to all parties to meeting in the Eastern Mediterranean Conference is very important to step for further alternatives on energy between the states and a chance to concentrate the blue-green energy also for getting rid of the fossil energy in the future. I think it will be a chance for future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gözü Güzelli. The next speaker is Oğuzhan Akyener from TESPAM. The floor is yours.
Much, Professor Çevik. I would like to also thank to our speakers for their interesting speeches and interesting advices regarding with the region. I would like to show you a presentation. I'm going to show you some maps. Hence, as our ambassador here says that seeing the picture on the map is very important, and as the president says that it's the problem of survivability in the region. Here, I think you can see. I would like to remind the position of Turkey in the region. Turkey is an ally of European Union, and Turkey is a member of NATO. And Turkey has many different strategic partnerships with its different Western allies. And Turkey sees its position with the side of its Western allies, but Turkey never gives up to protect its and Northern Cyprus rights in all aspects. And Turkey is ready for all fair and rational solution proposals. This is the first thing I would like to show you. And here, I want you to see this map. For example, but I have changed the locations of Turkey and Greece in the map, as you can see. Do you think, for example, I would like you to focus on this map, the EEZ boundaries. Do you think European Union will accept such an EEZ map if Greece was in the position of Turkey and Turkey in the position of Greece? Do you think that? It's impossible. We are sure about it. This means, for example, as you see, Turkey has the greatest maritime boundaries in the region, but has a very limited region, and they don't accept. There is a reality in the field. There is a state here, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. There is a reality. It's in the field. It's already a state, but they don't want to accept it. This is another position. And for example, they say that Turkey's claims in the Eastern Mediterranean is similar to the China's claims. But from a general look, this is the South China Sea conflicts. As you can see here, the red boundaries. China says that all the South China Sea belongs to me. Here you can see, and here you can understand from this map that Greece says that all the East Med belongs to me. The same. Actually, our Western allies, unfortunately, supports Greece in this map, but completely supports the other countries in the region within a similar situation in South China Sea. This is not fair. And unfortunately, from this map, the existing EEZ map, which European Union already accepted and presented, we can understand that here we can understand that Turkey is a dangerous enemy for European Union. Unfortunately, this picture means like that. This picture makes us to understand with these topics, with these issues, and Turkey has to be taken under control and imprisoned within its lands, and this means survivability. And for example, I have put this map on the face of my kids and asked them, what do you think about this map? This is Turkey, this is Greece. And they told me that this is foolish. We can divide the sea from the bottom, or we can capture the near islands in our sights, and then there will be no problem. Their answers to my question was this. I would like to put in your decision. And here, another I would like to say regarding with another unfair dream. You can see the Greece's EEZ boundaries with Egypt here. And we don't have so much time. I'm going to put it forward, and you can find this presentation in our website. And also, we're going to put additional. We are going to publish additional reports regarding with these topics of the forum. Here, as you can understand, Aegean Sea is a very good area to study, and it's very difficult to solve the conflicts, but actually, without solving the Aegean Sea problems, it's very difficult to solve the Cyprus issues. And here, theses, you can see the theses of both sides. As you can see, also our speakers mentioned. I will not go deep inside these information, but the mainland issues are the most important points here. Hence, there are two mainland countries, and then there is zero impact for the existing small islands in the region. This has to be the most fair situation for the region. And of course, there are lots of different maps showing different EEZ. However, in addition to this, I have to mention that unfortunately, as a Turkish side, we don't have too many articles, too many papers, too many maps to support our position in the East map. That's why we have to produce much more. And you can see the mainlands here, and as I mentioned, it's very difficult to solve the easy boundary problems, and in addition, before solving the Aegean Sea region, it's not possible to solve the Cyprus problem. But we can look for other opportunities. Maybe energy can be a leverage in the region. For example, and in addition to that, Israel and Lebanon's existing EEZ resolution models can be an example for the region. Maybe we can use a similar model. And Professor Shaw is going to talk about it in the session. And here you can see our EEZ boundaries that we declared for the East Med, but Aegean Sea is not included in this map. That's why this is the Aegean Sea boundaries. Maybe we can accept like this, but we also have to study on this. Hence, there are some gaps that we have to consider. And you can see the existing different sides of the conflicted EEZ boundaries. It's very complicated, actually, to solve. And here, there are some agreements between the regional states. And for example, the agreement between the Cyprus, the Southern Cyprus, and the Egypt, which gaps the Turkey's and TRNC's rights in the region, and Israel's attempts and the Lebanon's attempts, you can see, gaps the TRNC rights in the region, but this cannot be acceptable. And in addition, after solving the Aegean problem, when we come to the Cyprus side, there is a multidimensional sites for a key solution. Of course, there are lots of different things that we have to consider initially. The Turkey's and Greece conflicts is the most important point, and it has a historical background. And also, there are historical traumas in Cyprus, unfortunately. This is not easy to solve, and we have to remind every time. And Greece and Southern Cyprus to be European Union members is another problem that makes a solution to be accomplished more difficult. And regional targets of third-party powers is another different problem. Immigration problems is another thing that we have to focus on. And for example, Turkey's normalization policies in the region, another attempt that we have to consider. And when we put all these issues on a balancing table, here you can see that, for example, historical traumas pushes for a non-solution environment, and inner political trends, again, for a non-solutional environment. Aegean conflicts, Enosis targets, isolation policy against Turkey, unfair position of some Western countries, all these and the weak points of the international authorities, all these points puts a non-solution situation in the dynamics. And for the other side, for example, there is a huge immigrant risks, energy crisis, climate risks, Turkey's investments for the island. This is for the northern side, but if southern side comes in a favorable position, then also that side may be able to use these investments and opportunities. And Turkey's Israel's new normalization period in relations, Russian-Ukrainian war, and global threats for the region can be other points that we have to discuss, and these can be pushes for a solution together. But of course, as I mentioned before, dialogue is the most important thing that we have to consider initially. And also we can add the earthquake. Our speaker, Professor Bahadur, will going to talk about it. And again, the region has a huge risk for earthquakes. And energy at this point can be used as a leverage in the region. You know, you can see here the possible routes, which the EastMed is not possible, but a new route through Israel to Lebanon, then to northern Cyprus, and then Turkey can be a possible route. Here you can see the Egypt's discoveries and gas production projections for the long term. These issues will be detailedly discussed in the afternoon sessions. And you can see the gas consumptions and the remaining Egypt's gas export potential is like that. And Israel's gas export potential is like that. These are the field-by-field studies in the region. And total Egypt has such a level of export capacity that is going to fulfill its existing LNG terminals, free LNG terminals, which means Egypt is out of the game to export for an export opportunity for an integrated export opportunity in the region. That's why we only for a possible pipeline to reach the European Union, we have to include Israel and the fields in the southern side of Cyprus Island. I don't mean the southern Cyprus. I have to mention this. And these are the market import capacities in 2050s in European Union. Here you see, for example, Turkey will consume around 80 billion meters cube gas in 2050. These are our projections, and totally the region needs around 200 BCM gas from this route. And this is another map. You can see the Turkey's position, Turkey's new position in the region. Here you can see that the Turkey country also has a huge gas export potentials if good investments can be put forward. And also here from the East Med, around 25 BCM gas can be directed to Turkey and then the European markets. There is a market, there is a demand, there is a potential to supply and potential to production. This is another important issue, and as a result, you can see initially we have to maybe as a roadmap we can found an export negotiation team table among the due sites, which I mean Israel, Turkey, TRNC, South Cyprus, Lebanon, and IOCs. Then step by step here you can see, I will not go to focus deeply as my time is out.
2 minutes.
Yeah, and then step by step, maybe we can use energy as a leverage before solving all the issues. If we can start the energy flow, if we can start the energy production, then we can reach a more possible area, a more possible environment for better solutions. And for such a solution can be a better alternative for each site. For example, I mean the Turkey, the Greece, Israel. But actually, it's not easy to manage the southern Cyprus. I know their ideas. However, this can be tried. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akyener. All you know that we experienced 2 big earthquakes in Turkey. In this session, the next speaker is Dr. Bahadır Aktuğ. What is yours?
Thank you. Just like the natural resources, the seismic hazards and other disasters are also shaped by the countries in the Eastern Mediterranean. I will talk about seismicity. Sorry. And with a focus on the current earthquakes in Turkey. Karaman, we experienced 2 devastating earthquakes on the 6th of February in Turkey, and these 2 earthquakes apparently affected a large region, including Syria, and also it also created anxiety in the countries, neighboring countries, and these earthquakes have some kind of resemblance to the 1222 earthquake in the south of this island. East-South fault system, where the 2 Kahramanmaraş earthquake occurred, is a relatively quiet system, which, while it is the second biggest fault system in Turkey, it has a relatively low strain accumulation, low seismicity, and we didn't experience large earthquakes for a period of time. And this is actually just the characteristics of that earthquake system. And this is similar to what we observe in Cyprus too, and in some other places elsewhere. And stress transfer, since the stress is released by a few tens of seconds long earthquake, its sudden release of stress is just transferred to the neighboring parts, neighboring fault systems, and it is well known that some of the earthquakes are just triggered by the sudden release of stress transfer. It is observed in many places in the world, and the Cyprus arc is somewhat connected to the East Northern Fault System or the Dead Sea Fault System, and the exact location of this connection, let's say, is still under debate. And some people, and in literature, some researchers claim that Cyprus arc is just in the north part of Cyprus Island, and some claim that it is just goes through the island itself. No matter where the exact location is, it's an earthquake on these locations will affect Cyprus Island and the people. You don't have to be on the fault system itself. It's close enough to be affected, let's say. And the Cyprus arc is just constitutes the boundary between the African plate and the Anatolian plate, and the northward motion of African plate is compensated by the subduction. It means the going under another plate, and partly by the collision. The topography you'll see in Cyprus and in the Taurus Mountains in the southern part of Turkey is just a direct result of those motions, those earth processes. And the assessment of a seismic hazard requires or risk, let me say. Risk is just a product of the hazard, the exposure, and the vulnerability. And the first step is to quantification of the seismic hazard itself. This is a physical part of a risk assessment, let me say. And the quantification of seismic hazard requires the continuous monitoring of earthquakes, and the continuous monitoring and archiving of data. So it is about collecting data about the processes. Since the observation systems, the closer the observation systems are to the source, more data you will get, and in more detail you will get in terms of seismicity. The current infrastructure in Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is not sufficient, and we discussed with some people about how to improve it, and there are several ways to improve the infrastructure. And a seismic laboratory continues to monitor the earthquakes, since if you follow the small earthquakes, if it means you get information about whether they are active or not. So we are actually trying to trace or monitor the active faults. There are many faults. Some of the faults are paleotectonic structures, which means they are not active and they don't pose a risk anymore. But these instrumentation and monitoring of these relatively small earthquakes gives us clues about the possible risks. At the session in the afternoon, more about this. That's all I'm going to say today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Aktu. In this session, the next speaker will talk as online, Mr. Dr. Yücel Acar from Ankara. Are you ready, Mr.?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please.
Okay, Hocam. Thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here to share my observations about the Eastern Mediterranean maritime disputes. Since I am studying mostly the legal aspects of these disputes in the Eastern Mediterranean, I will start with trying to define some general principles concerning the issues. Then I will try to reflect these general principles on the Cyprus dispute in general, and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus position in particular. since the Second World War, there have been two major maritime areas emerged in the maritime law. The first one emerged as a continental shelf in 1950s, early 1950s, and became an international law part as a maritime area. The second one is exclusive economic zone. It emerged in 1970s during the negotiations concerning the Law of the Sea Convention. Now we have, since the Second World War, we have two major maritime areas. One of them is called continental shelf. The other one is called the exclusive economic zone. These maritime areas did not exist before the Second World War, so they are quite relatively new. These two maritime areas have some distinctive characteristics. The first one is that both of them relate only the natural resources of the area. So when we talk about the continental shelf or exclusive economic zone, both of them are only about the natural resources of the area, either carbohydrates or living resources of the area. Doesn't matter if one country declares the exclusive economic zone, it covers all the natural resources in that area. The second characteristics or legal feature of these maritime areas is that they are quite extensive in size. You know, unlike the territorial waters, which can go up to only 12 miles, continental shelf and exclusive economic zone can go up to 200 miles from the shore. For the continental shelf, it can go over 200 miles. It is on the open sea areas like in the oceans. So that's why they are so extensive in size. States normally have disputes in establishing the boundaries in seas like Eastern Mediterranean, which are quite relatively narrow sea areas. The Mediterranean Sea as a whole is relatively quite narrow maritime area, and Eastern Mediterranean is quite similarly very narrow maritime area, and the neighboring countries around the sea area having difficulties in establishing the maritime boundaries that would separate the respective continental shelf and exclusive economic zone areas. So that's quite normal. Even if we put the Cyprus dispute aside for a while, since there are many countries in a very narrow sea area and they have normally difficulties in establishing the maritime boundaries, even if there is no Cyprus dispute in the Eastern Mediterranean. For example, Greece and Turkey are like in the Aegean Sea, they are having the same difficulties in the Eastern Mediterranean just because of the islands, essentially. There are Greek islands in the area, and both countries disagree on how to treat these islands during the delimitation process. So that's why now, since early 2000, we are having very serious disputes concerning the natural resources in the Eastern Mediterranean simply because all states have not been able to establish a proper maritime boundaries or maritime boundaries which all agree on. In fact, the situation has been further complicated by the attitudes of the Greek Cypriots, simply because they established an international boundary between with Egypt without consulting any other neighboring area. And also, it seems that they have violated the possible continental shelf areas of Turkey, not only the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, but also Turkey objected to this agreement simply because potential areas that could be potentially a continental shelf of Turkey have been violated by this agreement. The Greek Cypriots did not stop there. They carried on to do new maritime boundary agreements without, taking into account the rights of Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Lebanon was another example in 2007. And also the third example was an agreement with Israel in 2010. So all of them, disregarded either the rights of Turkey or the rights of northern Turkish rights on the island. So that's why there have been official objections to these agreements done by the Greek side. You know, if you add all these complications together with the Cyprus dispute, then it became even more complicated. Although we are already having many difficulties in establishing the agreed maritime boundaries in the Eastern Mediterranean, then if you add the Cyprus dispute in this, you know, framework, then you will have even more complicated issue, especially for the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus or Turks living on the island. That's quite clear that the Greek side did not take into account any single right of the Turks living on the island in the maritime areas. They just did unilaterally maritime boundary agreements with other countries without, you know, taking into account the possible rights of Turkish side. That's why Turkey and the northern Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus signed the delimitation agreement in 2011 between the island and the Turkey. After this agreement, Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus have given some concessions to Turkish Petroleum Company for the search of gas or oil resources around the islands. Now it's quite clear that the areas claimed by the Greek side and the Turkish side coincide, they just overlap. That creates almost daily tension at the moment. So far, the Greek side discovered a couple of places in the sea area which have some, you know, proved gas resources like Aphrodite. But there is no discovery on the Turkish side at the moment, but that's quite clear that the areas are coinciding. So that means there is always a potential to conflict between two sides. That's why the dispute, really urgent to be settled without having even further difficulties. You know, from this point, we should make some futuristic observations. The first one is that, as the first speaker outlined, there are concrete proposals from Turkey and Turkish side in the island that let's establish a joint management of the natural resources around the island and share the resources without having, you know, further conflicts or clashes. Maybe, possibly, hopefully not, but there's always a tension on the ground, and that has a, you know, possibility to create even further clashes. So that's why there is a need to settle the disputes urgently. The joint management is an option which stands in front of the Greek side. This has been proposed by Turkey and Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus several times since 2016. So it's up to the Greek side to handle the issue in such a legalistic way to get rid of all the possible and existing tension in the area. Another option could be, you know, without, you know, settling the Cyprus dispute as a whole. That's quite possible that they can agree on, you know, possible maritime boundaries separating the territorial waters, continental shelf, on exclusive economic zone of the both sides in the area. That would definitely, you know, create a very favorable situation for both sides without having any further tension and maybe possibility of clash. So two options are quite significant. You know, Greek side should agree either to, you know, establish a joint management on the natural resources around the island, or establish clear international maritime boundaries with the Turkish side. That's another option. One of these options should be, you know, discussed seriously in order to prevent any further, you know, problem in the maritime areas. That's the outline that I can do on the maritime issues around the island. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acar. The last speaker in this session from Israel, Haifa University, Dr. Shaul Chanev. Floor is yours.
Morning, everybody, and I would like to thank SPAM for inviting me to present in the symposium of International EastMed Energy Forum the topic of not conflict but resolution. And I would try to emphasize on the Israeli case the elimination of the maritime border between Israel and Lebanon. To begin with, I would like to go through the situation in the Eastern Mediterranean. And this is the limitation of the EEZs. And as you can see, the line are not demonstrating the conflict that we have. Because the line, it's how we explained it according to the UNCLOS. But I should mention that there are a lot of conflicts here in the delimitation of maritime border in the Eastern Mediterranean. And Israel-Lebanon is only one of them. But because of the topic of this presentation, I would like to concentrate on it and then to go through what are the lessons that we learn from this case and how we can proceed or looking forward to it. Speaking about the characteristics of Israel maritime domain, you can see that the area of the EEZ is 22,000 square kilometers. Israel area prior to the 67 war was 20,000 square kilometers. So by the exclusive economic zone, Israel gained an area which is bigger than the area of the state of Israel, the land. And in this area, we have a lot of activity. You can see infrastructures, merchants, fishing, leisure, and all of it in this area. And by the marine spatial planning, we have to see how we get the best of allocating these facilities and not harming the maritime environment. With regard to the delimitation of the maritime border, we have agreed upon with Cyprus about this border. With the Lebanon, and I'll speak about it, about the process, it was settled in October 27, 2022. It is solved even though we did it through mediation. And the next conflict that we'll have to solve, and I think that this is one of the lessons learned, is with the Palestinian Authority regarding the Gaza Strip. So, to sum up, what is the situation with Israel and the elimination of the maritime border? Let's start with Cyprus. Voluntary Delimitation Agreement in place 2010, mutual recognition of maritime borders, but cross-border hydrocarbon dispute under voluntary international arbitration. The Cypriots have their Aphrodite. We have our Shai reservoir, and we haven't yet come to an agreement what is the portion of Israel or the portion of Cyprus. With Egypt, Egypt is an UNCLOS signatory. There is no delimitation agreement in the Mediterranean Sea and no official maritime border recognition. As you can see it here with Egypt, Palestinian Authority, as I mentioned, Palestinian Authority, even if it's only an authority, it's a signatory to the UNCLOS. No delimitation agreement, potential cross-border hydrocarbon dispute in this area. And with Lebanon, armed conflict brewing, no formal recognition of maritime borders, potential cross-border hydrocarbon dispute, and agreement that was signed on October 27, 2022. So here is the unilateral declaration of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expertise, the Minister of the Palestinian Authority, about their area. In this declaration, they disregarded not only Israel area, but also Egypt area. So it is disputed, even though the points were brought to the United Nations. I should mention what is Israel's position regarding the delineation of its EEZ. Israel refrained from signing and ratifying the UNCLOS, determine its economic water and maritime boundaries in the Mediterranean through an agreement and or declaration or according to the customary international law or recognized international principles. So we are not signatories, but we are taking into account all these elements of it, and Israel is going to have some interior rule that will cover all these issues. Why? The section of the treaty that discusses the settlement of dispute, which may expose Israel to a mandatory procedure conducted by the International Court of Justice. And in this court, there is a concern that Israel will be subject to bias and inferior status in relation to the claim. That's what our experience in other areas that we have in this fora. And what is Israel's challenge is to acting according to the customary international law without becoming a signatory to the Convention on the Sea or ratifying it. We have internal legislation that has not yet been finalized, but it's the Marine Zone Act of 2017. And when we'll complete this authorization, I think that we'll finish with to cover all the regulations that are related to this area. After Israel withdrew from South Lebanon in 2000, the UN mapped out the so-called blue line, the blue line on the land. It's a land boundary that hewed closely to the 1948 Armistice Line. Armistice Line, the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, that's the Armistice Line. And although both governments generally respect this line, they have never formally recognized it, and the boundary was witnessed frequent violations and military hostility over the years. The UN did not demark a maritime boundary, and Israel strung up a buoy line extending 3.1 miles or 5 kilometers into the sea from the Ras Nakura Rosh Hanikra crossing. And Israeli Navy has patrolled it ever since, calling this necessary security measures and therefore consider it important for the deal to incorporate the buoy line. So here you can see Ras Al Nakura, and even there, the starting point, there is a difference between the Lebanon start point and Israel start point. And even though it's only about 40 to 50 meters, when you start to draw the line, it gives you the area that we are speaking about. This is a view from a land point to see where is the point that marked the starting point. And so the original position was that Israel unilaterally declared its northern maritime border in 2011 by simple local government decision. And this was the line that Israel considered. The original line included 6 geographical coordinates. From here, you can see the 6 coordinates. And the first 5 kilometers from the coast, it is marked by buoy because of security reasons. And according to Israel, the trilateral intersection between the Israel-Cypriot-Lebanon maritime border was located on the northern part of the Israel-Cypriot maritime border. So another way, this map gives you the dates, Lebanon-Cyprus delimitation of 2007. And this was the point that we consider it as the in the line. Later, Lebanon came in 2010 and mentioned this point. And we have this area that I presented as disputed area. Before or prior, we took the arbitration negotiation by the U.S. envoys from 2011. During the negotiation, and speaking about reservoir, this is Leviathan, and this is the biggest reservoir for hydrocarbon that Israel have, Tanin, Tamar, and Karish. During the negotiation, the Lebanon changed the line that was with 23, and grow it to the southern part, and claimed that Karish reservoir is in the disputed area, which was not accepted not only by us, but also by the US envoy to the area. So we have to start and to deal with this issue. And I think that when we are speaking about it, the line, the disputed area, the line that we are considering now is the new geographical coordinate of the agreement. The new line include 4 coordinates only. The first 5 kilometers from the shoreline westward to the sea remain disputed or in a status quo mode. This is the area, and this is the agreed border. If you look at what can be the reservoir, so Karish, Israeli reservoir, is out of this area. Speaking about the Kana or Sidon, this is the Lebanese had a prospect on this area, and through geological survey, it might give them some kind of good results. Total, which is France holding 40%, and also ENI, the Italian, 40%, and the Russians, they have a 20%, but they pass it to the Lebanese government. The rumors are saying that the Lebanon government will give it to the Qatar company. So this, with respect to this area, that's a potential for Lebanon to have exploration of a gas reserve. So for Israel, Israel initiated the third competition process in order to grant rights to explore, develop, and exploit Block 72 that you can see, and the settlement that we have there with Lebanon gives some kind of, let's say, hope that international companies will come and do this survey, since they realize that there is some kind of agreement with Lebanon. So, speaking about the New Deal basic terms, the U.S. broker maritime agreement between Israel and Lebanon that was signed on October 27th presents a real yet fragile opportunity for both countries. The solution has cast some optimism on the political outlook of the region, thereby reducing the security and political risk for investors and potentially attracting capital inflows. The deal comes amid Lebanon settling for line 23 instead of line 29, I show it, during the negotiation. Drawing line 29, it was, or Karish reservoir was included in it. It is clear that the sustainability of the marine agreement will remain uncertain in the absence of significant political reform and effort to curb influence of Hezbollah in Lebanese politics. During all the negotiation, I think that the Lebanese government looked at what Hezbollah is mentioning, and as we know, Hezbollah is an unstabilizing factor in Lebanon politics, so this is an open question. The current buoy line, when I mentioned about the 5 kilometer and the area up to the shore, will be formally recognized as a status quo until land boundary is demarcated by the parties. So it's an open issue. Beyond the buoys, the maritime boundary will follow line 23 per Lebanon request, and Israel will receive compensation for its 17% share of Kana Tzidon prospect when the area is developed through a side deal with the French company Total that will develop the field under contract with the Lebanese government. This arrangement also enables Beirut to claim that it will not be compensating Israel. So we did it through an indirect negotiation and contract with the French company Total. The US will provide Israel with a side letter suggesting that Washington will put its diplomatic weight behind its position on the deal specific terms if Hezbollah will violate them. Given Lebanon's desire to avoid framing the agreement as normalization with Israel, the deal will reportedly be confirmed through a signing ceremony at the UN facilities in Ras El Nakula, which was done at October 27. And it is unclear if parties will sign sign document. It's not the case. In addition to their commitment to deliver separate letters to confirmation to the US envoy. With the Lebanese economies in complete collapse, I think that Beirut sees the maritime deal as an opportunity to unlock foreign investment and lift the country out of its spiraling economic crisis. And Kana has yet to be explored, and sufficient quantities of gas to make extraction economically viable may not be found at the reservoir. In the best case scenario, the discovery of a more than 15 trillion cubic feet, that's what is in meter, the reserve revenue could be up to 6 billion over 15 years. So this revenue might be divided and Israel get out of it, as I mentioned, with the compensation signed with Total. Under the terms of the agreement, Israel retained full rights to develop the Karish field, while Lebanon retained full rights in Kana, but with a caveat. The deal will take effect once Lebanon and Israel send letters, and they send a letter to Washington. On that day, Lebanon and Israel will simultaneously but separately send the new boundaries coordinates to the United States. It was done. Both parties also agreed not to submit new charts or coordinates to the UN in the future unless they have been agreed upon bilaterally. While the deal between Lebanon and Israel is a significant step toward the stabilization, the Eastern Mediterranean as an area, and I think this is the topic of this webinar, it's remain as a guardian, not conflict to claims. And what are the loopholes that we have? The biggest loopholes is that the deal did not specify an arrangement on profit distribution, but the fair agreement on what reality Israel will get from the Kana field to the future date. Both governments are under severe time pressure. We succeeded, Lebanon succeeded, and currently we have a new government that in the past, as opposition rejected it, but this is a done deal in this case. And when the Attorney General was asked about whether it should be approved by our parliament, he gave some kinds of relief to it and said that it's enough to present it to our parliament. The deal is largely focused on Israel EEZ rather than its territorial water. Therefore, it is status quo understanding with Lebanon on territorial water until the land border dispute will be resolved. And I don't know when the land border dispute will be resolved also. Yet apparent territorial concessions between the end of the buoy line and the edge of the territorial water may complicate a legal issue. looking forward, and I think this is very important for this webinar, is that the solution has cast some optimism on the political outlook of the region, and thereby reducing the security and political risk for investors and potentially attracting capital inflows. The Eastern Mediterranean region still has many maritime borders to be delineated, including between Lebanon and Syria, Syria and Cyprus, Turkey and Cyprus, as well as between Greece, Egypt, and Libya. The deal is a milestone that the East Mediterranean region's quest to become a major supplier in a global gas markets. And we have the Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum, which assembles from time to time, usually in Egypt. However, on its own, it is far from being sufficient. More discoveries need to be made, boost the export potential of the region, bearing in mind domestic market need, as well as request and need for it in other markets like Europe. Aphrodite, Cyprus' largest gas discovery to date, remains stranded more than 10 years after its discovery, as it extends into Israel EEZ, and the two parties have not yet settled about what should be the part of each party in this reservoir. So I conclude my presentation, and as, let's say, closing remark, I think that looking at the settlement that we have with Lebanon, we should look also into our southern border. And the next, from my point of view, the next issue can be the settlement with Gaza, because we know that they have a potential for Gaza reservoir here. We know what does it mean when Gaza Strip is, let's say, governed by the Hamas extreme organization. But I think that when we are speaking about giving some hope, wealth, discovery, economic improvement to these people, it might change the situation in the Middle East. So the Eastern Mediterranean, known from the optimistic point of view of a gas reservoir, but from pessimistic point of view, we need to overcome some hurdles about how to deal with all this border. With this, I conclude my presentation, and I would like to once again to thank the organizer for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaul. We completed this session. Thank you very much for your patience. We will start at 8 p.m. As online, yes. All speakers talk as online. Okay. Thank you very much.